Our family has never been in need, but 5 years ago we decided to take out a mortgage to expand our living space. We wanted our daughter to have her own room and thought it would be a good investment. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Harper was laid off from her job, and in order to keep our income going, I decided to find a part-time job. I decided to become a cab driver, realizing that it could disrupt our quiet life. Working part-time in the evenings and sometimes on weekends, I quickly realized that I could make good money working directly with customers. It wasn't always convenient, but it helped support our family. I still tried to spend time with my wife and kids, went on vacations, and even planned a trip to the beach. However, the job was not giving me the satisfaction I had hoped for. I was supposed to be a professional, not a 45-year-old man working as a cab driver. This disappointed my wife, but I didn't give up hope and suggested we look into remote work opportunities. I heard that might be a viable option. Harper looked at me skeptically. "Do you really see me as someone who can work remotely? The main requirement is to work with people on the phone," she said, pursing her lips. I was forced to agree. Harper was a strong-willed woman who could easily lose her patience, and working with people foolishly didn't suit her. Ironically, this became the funniest part of the situation that followed. We went on vacation, and surprisingly, my wife seemed to perk up. She continued her job search, but this time with less desperation. And then something unexpected happened. I noticed that she began to enjoy being at home. The house was always clean, smelled nice, and our children were well taken care of. Most importantly, my wife was happy. Our sex life even improved. I met a man named Roger, and somehow it happened that I often gave him a ride to work. I even decided to moonlight for an hour or two in the morning, and also after a normal workday. One day I even gave him a ride to my house, but he insisted on getting off at the store and didn't specify the entrance. It made me laugh at how small our town is and what unexpected encounters can happen. Then I came face to face with him as I entered the building. At first I thought maybe his mom lived in our entryway, since we have grandmothers with children and grandchildren living in our building. I even assumed they had all been abandoned, so I was happy for one of them when the prodigal son showed up. I shared this story with my wife. On our next trip together, I asked Roger, "Are you going to your mom's house, Roger?" He hesitated, grinned, and replied, "What makes you say that?" "I don't know. Yes, maybe I was wrong. Perhaps his friends live in our house." "Well, you always stop at the store first and then you go. Or maybe you have a woman living there." Roger laughed again. At that moment, I felt a little uneasy. I knew for a fact that there were no single women among our neighbors. Surprisingly, but our entryway was very friendly, and there were never any quarrels in the chat room of our house. That was strange. "What's strange?" I asked. Roger was silent. "What's it called?" I inquired. He replied, "Why do you need to know?" I assured him, "No, it's just banal curiosity. I would never pry into someone else's family." His words began to have a profound effect on me. Soon we arrived at our destination and my client thanked me for the ride by patting me on the shoulder. However, he couldn't resist bragging, "My wife, Harper, whom I left, is waiting for me." At that moment, something inside me clicked. I braked sharply. Roger almost fell out of his seat from fright, and everything around him became a blur. I hastily got out of the car, opened the passenger door, and forcefully pulled him out. Even though he was bigger than me, the anger completely overwhelmed me. As I punched him in the nose, my wife came out of the driveway, screaming and trying to separate us. Unfortunately, she ended up getting punched. The fight abruptly broke off, and I stood there watching what was happening. My sobbing wife stood on the other side of the street. Her lover was nursing a broken nose, and curious neighbors were peering out of their windows. Disgusted, I spat in their direction and left without returning home that evening. From then on, my communication with my wife was limited to text messages. Eventually, we divorced and I was ordered to pay child support. I wondered how she was coping during this time, even though I knew she never found a job. So I tried to provide only what the court required to meet the needs and demands of our children and nothing more. I did not want this leech to continue to live off me.